In this video, you'll definitely see plenty of photos and clips of Windsor Homes, okay? That's a given. But honestly, that's not where the real insight is. What actually matters are the numbers and the details that most people skim right past. Well, we're not going to do that here. Instead, let's dig in and figure out if Windsor Homes is truly a builder you can rely on. Well, first off, they've been around a long time, all right? Since 1986, they've been building homes right here in Texas. Now, they don't branch out into other states, and they're not one of those massive national builders. On average, they close around 200 homes per year. In fact, in 2024, they were ranked number 182 on the Builder Next 100 list with 192 closings and about $108 million in revenue. So let's break it down by asking the questions that really matter to buyers, okay? First off, how likely are they to be around in 5 years? Well, with nearly 40 years under their belt, that track record looks pretty good. They've held their own in a very competitive Texas market, which is a good sign for stability. However, their smaller size means they don't have the same cushion if the market takes a downturn. Second, what recourse will you have if something goes wrong? Well, this is where scale really matters, okay? Larger companies often have more resources and structured warranty departments, while smaller ones may rely more heavily on like local teams and subcontractors. Well, Windsor being a mid-sized builder means they'll likely still stand behind their product, but you won't see the same kind of extensive national backing that a big corporate builder can provide. And finally, how financially well-backed are they? Well, with $108 million in revenue, they're certainly not tiny, but they're not in the top tier either. Like, they've got staying power from being around for decades, but they also don't have the scale of a builder closing thousands of homes a year. So taking all of this together, their history, size, financial footprint, I would give them a grade of a C+, all right? They're reliable enough to trust that they'll be here, but they don't have the massive resources of the big national players. So it's something to keep in mind as you weigh your options. If you were driving through a Windsor Homes neighborhood, the first thing you'd notice is the roof lines. Like this home, for example, has a steep pitched roof line with multiple front-facing gables and tall windows with decorative shutters. Just down the street, you might see another one of their two-story homes. This one with a front-facing gable, an arched entryway, and a carriage-style garage door. Not every Windsor home towers up 2 stories though. They also build single-story plans like this wide front design that stretches out with multiple gables, a clean-lined entryway, and a modern front door. Right next to that, you could run into a narrower 2-story home that has twin front gables, a recessed entry, tall modern windows, and little metal awnings over the side windows. Then there's a home with a 2-story design and a steep gabled roofline, mixing brick with siding accents and a 2-car tandem style garage. And to top it off, there's another plan that shows off dramatic roof lines, stone accents framing the entryway, and a 3-car garage featuring carriage style doors. So you're definitely going to see both 1- and 2-story options when driving down these streets. Although depending on the community, one type might dominate more than the other. The garages are flexible too. Most plans come with either a 2- or 3-car setup, so buyers usually have choices there. Now let's take a look at some model home footage so you can kind of get a feel for how the interiors match up. Overall, Windsor Homes does have some variety in their elevations and exteriors, but the designs tend to stay within a pretty safe lane. You won't find anything wildly unique from one house to the next, but you will see consistency and a clean, polished look. For this category, I would give them a grade of a B-. When you're building a home from the ground up with Windsor Homes, the first thing you'll do is select your floor plan. You're going to find Windsor separates their floor plans by community. On average, you'll find about 12 floor plans per community with some overlap between neighborhoods. There's a decent variety in what they offer. You'll see both 1- and 2-story designs in nearly every neighborhood. Some floor plans include bonus spaces like extra living rooms, a dining room plus a study, okay, that sort of thing. Garage sizes range from 2-car setups to plans that accommodate a 3rd or even a 4th bay. So I would say they give you just enough variety to keep things interesting. Once you've decided on a floor plan, it's time to start thinking about structural customization. And this is where you really see how flexible a builder is willing to be. On the minor end, Windsor gives you plenty of options like fireplace upgrades, swapping in sliders instead of a standard back door, upgraded showers, or converting a regular bath to a garden tub. Now, moving into moderate structural changes, you'll see possibilities like converting a flex room into a bedroom, turning a media room into a bedroom and a bathroom, or even extending the patio. So those are interior framing changes without messing with the exterior footprint. Now, for significant structural changes, Windsor does allow some bigger moves like adding an additional room or upgrading to a 3- or 4-car garage, kind of depending on the floor plan. Now, what you won't find is supreme customization. All right, this is not a builder where you can bring in your own floor plan or work with in-house architects to completely redesign from scratch. On the design side though, they do give you quite a bit of flexibility. Windsor pairs buyers with a design consultant who helps walk through all the finishes and upgrades, and they've got a design gallery that shows everything you can pick from. You'll choose, oh my goodness, everything: flooring, cabinetry, countertops, backsplash designs, tubs, shower, plumbing fixtures, lighting packages, paint colors, doors and hardware, fireplace surrounds, tile details, and even window coverings. To make it easier, their website has both a photo and video gallery to help you visualize your choices and get some inspiration before you step into the design center. All in all, Windsor Homes offers a decent amount of customization. Their strength lies in providing enough floor plan variety and finish options to make your home feel personal without overwhelming you with choices. So structurally, they give you some flexibility, but not total freedom. Their design process and gallery resources make the selection process smooth and informed. So based on all of this, I would give them a solid grade of a B. When you buy a new home, one of the most important things to look at is the warranty coverage, because it tells you how the builder stands behind their work. Well, Windsor Homes offers what's considered the industry standard setup, okay? 1 year on craftsmanship, 2 years on systems, and 10 years on structural coverage. So that means for the first year, anything related to the fit and finish, okay, like trim, drywall, flooring, cabinetry, is covered if it doesn't hold up the way it should. Then the 2-year systems warranty gives you extra peace of mind for things like electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, since those are the parts of the home you really depend on day to day. And then there's the big one, okay? A 10-year structural warranty that covers the major load-bearing parts of the home, like the foundation and framing. One thing to note is that Windsor runs their warranty program through a third-party warranty group. Still, the coverage itself is solid, and it lines up with what you'll see from most reputable builders in the Texas market. So overall, while Windsor Homes doesn't go above and beyond with anything out of the ordinary here, they do provide a warranty package that checks the boxes you'd expect. So I would give them a grade of a B for their warranty. When you're looking at Windsor Homes, one of the key questions to ask is how many choices you actually have in where to buy. Because let's be honest, falling in love with a floor plan doesn't mean much if it's only offered in one neighborhood that you don't want to live in. So if you do fall in love with a particular floor plan, how many places will you be able to find it? Well, the answer here is moderately good odds. Like if it's one of Windsor's more popular or standard plans, you'll likely see it pop up in more than one community. But availability depends heavily on things like lot size, style of the community, and whether that plan fits the elevation and streetscape for the neighborhood. As for where Windsor builds, their focus is almost entirely on the DFW area. Right now, they've got around 18 active communities. Up north and northeast, you'll see them in spots like McKinney, Van Alstyne, and Salina, which are some of the fastest growing suburbs in the Metroplex. Then head east and you're going to find them in Rockwall and Rowlett. If you're looking southeast or directly south, okay, the options thin out quite a bit, but they do have communities in places like Mansfield. What you won't see much of is Windsor on the far west side of DFW or over in Fort Worth. Their footprint really leans towards two sides of the Metroplex, the north and the east. So that means if you're targeting the western or southern suburbs, you're probably going to have very limited choices, if any, with this builder. So bottom line here is that Windsor's reach is somewhat limited compared to bigger regional or national builders. They've got a decent presence in their core areas, but not a lot of variety if you're looking outside of that zone. So for that reason, I would grade them a C when it comes to location options. Enough to work with if you're already planning to be in their core areas, but not much flexibility beyond that. So we know how many communities Windsor Homes builds in, but let's take it a step further, okay? How about volume? Well, how many actual homes do they have available right now if you're looking for something move-in ready? Well, on their website, Windsor currently has about 50 quick move-in homes listed. So that's not a huge number, especially when you compare it to some of the larger builders in DFW who might have hundreds of inventory homes on the ground at any given time. This is important because many times you're going to find a home floor plan you really like, but it happens to be in a community you don't love, okay? So the real question is, what are the odds you're going to be able to find that same floor plan in a different Windsor Homes community? Well, with around 50 homes scattered across 18 neighborhoods, I would say you've got a decent chance if you're flexible, but it's not guaranteed. Their more popular or standard floor plans are likely to show up in multiple communities, but the more unique designs may only be tied to certain lot sizes or neighborhood styles. So overall, Windsor's volume of quick move-in homes is on the lower side. It limits flexibility for buyers looking for immediate options. So for that reason, I would give them a grade of C in this category. Okay, it's not terrible, I'm not saying that, but it's definitely not high volume either. When we look at Windsor Homes, one of the big questions buyers have is how broad is their price range? In other words, how many different types of buyers will realistically be able to consider them as an option? Well, on the low end, Windsor's homes start at about $390,000. And these are their smaller, more modest homes located in the less expensive communities. Now, on the high end, their prices reach up to around $1.1 million. So that's a pretty wide spread. We're talking about a $600,000 range. Being in that $400,000 range, Windsor ends up appealing to a broad portion of DFW's mid to upper middle income buyers. All right, these are not entry-level homes. Like, you're not going to find much under $300,000 with Windsor in today's market. But for people in the $400,000 plus budget range, okay, they become a realistic contender. Now, the real sweet spot of Windsor's offerings tends to land between like $500,000 and $700,000. This range includes a large number of their floor plans and communities, and it's right where a lot of DFW buyers like to be. Like, big enough to get a well-sized, nicely finished home without tipping into the ultra luxury price bracket. For buyers with larger budgets, Windsor does offer options in the $950,000 to like $1.1 million range. And these homes are typically found in their premium communities, often on larger lots with estate style floor plans or more custom elevation choices. Now, that said, Windsor doesn't really target the extreme luxury market. So if you're looking for like, a $1.5, $2 million custom build, you are probably going to be working with a different builder altogether. If you're curious about specific communities, the lowest starting prices can be found in Anna Town Square, located in Anna. On the other end of the spectrum, Las Brisas at Stony Creek in Sunnyvale has the highest starting prices in Windsor's lineup. So altogether, Windsor's pricing gives them a good amount of reach, like appealing to a wide spectrum of buyers while staying firmly in like that mid to upper mid-range category. It's a total price spread of about $600,000, which is solid coverage. It's just not the widest we've seen. So for this reason, I'd give them a grade of about a B in terms of price range. When we look at Windsor Homes community reviews, there's definitely a spread in ratings. On the low end, the community with the lowest review score is Lakeshore Village in Rowlett, which sits at 2.3 stars with 3 reviews. Now, on the high end, the standout is Brookshire at Legacy Hills in Salina, which has a perfect 5.0 rating across 9 reviews. So that shows us there's a wide range of experiences depending on the community. One of the most detailed negative reviews comes in at 1 star from someone who may not have fully understood the details of the contract, but who ultimately felt misled by Windsor during the process. The reviewer starts by saying Windsor builds a good product, but they felt the customer service side of things was not on their side. The main complaint was about the contract process. Windsor requires a $15,000 earnest money deposit, and the contract doesn't list a clear estimated closing date. The buyer has to acknowledge a $250 per day penalty if they don't close on time, even though no closing date is specified in the agreement. The reviewer's frustration was that the builder has protections written in for themselves, but the buyer doesn't. They also mentioned seeing partially built homes sitting for weeks with no visible progress, which led them to ultimately cancel their contract. The issue? They weren't eligible to get their $15,000 deposit back. So their final takeaway was a strong warning to avoid this experience and consider other builders like Pulte or Highland. On the flip side, the majority of Windsor's 5-star reviews are much lighter in detail. Many of them either don't include written comments at all, or they briefly mention positive interactions with sales associates in a specific community. It's less about the full building process and more about initial experiences with the people representing Windsor. If we summarize the reviews by ranking, about 67% of communities are sitting at 4.5 stars or higher, while 33% are 4.4 stars or lower. So across all Windsor communities, okay, there are only 9 communities total that have reviews. That's a pretty small sample size to draw hard conclusions from. It's also tricky because many of the perfect 5.0 scores don't come with written context, so it's tough to evaluate what those buyers really thought of the process from start to finish. Still, more than 60% of Windsor's communities do come in at 4.5 stars or higher, which leans positive overall. So based on this, I would grade Windsor a B in the reviews category. Good ratings on paper, but with limited depth and context to really fully back it up. So that's Windsor Homes, the good, the bad, and the stuff nobody really talks about until it's too late. The truth is, the difference between a smart buy and a costly mistake often comes down to knowing what most people overlook. And if you found value here, okay, you're going to want to dive into our full playlist of builder reviews where we break down the numbers, the details, and the hidden fine print. You can find that playlist right here. In the meantime, this is Wendy Pinnell, Dallas Realtor, and I'll see you there.